Hey guys, Kelade here. So let's talk about Fury Warriors on the Shadowlands beta and how they play, how they feel, what their strengths and weaknesses seem to be. But before that, we really need to talk about all these people right now that's giving feedback, I think, that haven't played the beta, or they just haven't played it enough, or haven't played it in a setting that actually even makes sense. There's so many things that are wrong. Like, people are telling me about, like, oh, all these people talking about ARMS being good. No, ARMS sucks ass right now. And I can't believe the videos some of you guys are linking me of people talking about ARMS. It's completely insane. These guys either have never played WoW or they've never played Warrior once in their lives. They're talking about things that are completely not possible. Like, you're not going to stack 2x overpowered before you're going to use a Mortal Strike just because you want that extra percentage. Like, that's not how you play the spec. That's not how the rotation works. People are doing all these things like, oh, look at all these things. Like, you know, you have like all these 4 mechanics. They add up to a better Mortal Strike damage. That's not how you play it, because you're going to most likely on, you know, a fight that's outside of the condemned range, you're probably going to use Mortal Strike on cooldown. So enough of the ARMS. I might make a video about some of that, but holy shit, there are so much misinformation that's happening right now. I don't know if people are being lazy because they're not trying out the class, they're not doing enough research, they're not testing on themselves. But I mean, when you're watching some of these videos on Shadowlands, just know that, holy fuck, a lot of people have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. I'm very pissed because now I have to go and answer these questions, and holy shit, I just can't even believe this. But we're here to talk about Fury Warriors, so let's talk about Fury Warriors. The other thing I do want to note, as an aside, is that when people talk about Conduits, just know that right now, I think there's 15 ranks of Conduits. So when you look at the rank 1 Conduits, and you kind of like look at the power, realize that at the end of the day, right, yes, the rank 1 Conduits matter because that's how strong you are right away, right? But just do know that you're most likely going to be like 2 to 3 times stronger from that conduit just based on changes that happen as you progress in the levels, right? It's 2 to 3 times it's different based on that conduit itself. Some of them, like the recklessness one, I think it goes from like 20% increased duration to 60%. And then there's some other damage ones where it goes like twice as strong. So just know that there are changes, and we already know that there's gonna be changes for conduits. So just keep that in mind. And then obviously a lot of the damage stuff that we're talking about could definitely change. But one of the biggest things is right now is how the class feels, right? And I want to make sure it's different from the point that I made previously with the ARMS Warrior thing, is that when it feels is how it actually plays, not what it could be, which is in situations where it's never possible, right? So for example, let's use the example of Banner, right? Where you can get 30 stacks of glory, you're gonna get 30% crit hit chance. Most likely, as an average player, in most situations, you'll probably never hit 30 stacks. You won't even come close to hitting 30 stacks of glory, right? So in those situations, you can't think of the gameplay as, oh, I'm gonna get 30% crit right here. You have to use a realistic number of when I'm actually doing combat, when I'm actually charging into a Mythic Plus group, when I'm starting a boss fight, how long of that fight am I gonna be in condemned range, right? How much burst is there going to be from the beginning of fights that bam, right, we're instantly not going to be in that first 20% of the fight anymore. So that all has to be taken into consideration. Things that you're planning out, yes, in theory some of them could work, but in actuality you can't do those rotations, right? So I can't even get over some of this shit. This is actually insane. All right, let's talk about Fury. So some of the big changes in Fury, one of the biggest changes that people have been asking about is single-minded Fury versus Titan's Grip. Now, in reality, it really does seem like this change is mainly just for transmog purposes. As far as your actual playstyle, your rotation, nothing changes between single-minded Fury and Titan's Grip, right? It just increases the damage, and you're probably auto-attacking faster. Now, some people are saying that, oh, it makes them feel better because like they feel the rage gang is more fluid. But for me, honestly, that's not the case. I actually much prefer the Titan's Grip version. Whenever I'm playing Titan's Grip, I feel like my rage is at a place that I'm more used to. It could just be familiarity with playing, you know, this version of Fury for, you know, my entire time playing Warriors, which was at the beginning of Legion. So I still prefer Titan's Grip. I also think it looks cooler because your weapons are bigger. So it really doesn't make a difference. The only thing I think that's going to make the huge difference is once Blizzard releases more weapons, right? So a lot of things on the beta right now just have stats. So like, even trinkets, for example, is just like a string stat, and then there's like a mastery or whatever secondary stats, right? But as they start releasing more and more items and we start seeing proc effects on these items, that's where we can see the shift, right? If there's some crazy proc weapon that's a one-hander or two-hander, that's heavily going to dictate how we're going to play. On top of that, the weapons that are going to be dropping in the raid are going to be dropped in the form of tokens. So you don't have to worry about, you know, finding two one-handers or two two-handers. Blizzard has looked into that, and it is probably going to be an easier process in regards to getting the right weapon type for your character. So don't worry about that too much until we see the items that are going to be coming out. And on top of that, we're going to get a few spells back, but unfortunately, most of these things are probably going to be utility, right? Because one of the damage abilities that we got is Slam, which is absolutely useless as a Fury Warrior. It costs 20 rage, and it barely does more damage than Whirlwind. So don't even put this ability in bars. If you put it in bars, you're actually just straight up trolling. Now, we do have some defensive things. Mainly, Ignore Pain is the biggest one. Now, it does cost 80 rage to use Ignore Pain, so you're sacrificing a large part of your damage, but it provides a pretty nice shield. I think right now it's around 20% of my HP, 20-25% of my HP is how much my Ignore Pain gives me. Relatively good amount, you know. Obviously, if you're a dead DPS, you're not going to do any DPS, so in situations where you need it to stay alive, you should definitely use it. And then there's also some like tanking things that you can do, right? You can like mass taunt, and then you can put a shield block up. Sure, whatever. Like, you know, if it all works out, that can be nice. If your tank dies and you can maybe try to stay alive and tank for a few seconds, that's fine. But as far as for like actual like damage shit, a lot of this pruning doesn't affect us that much, mainly because Slam is absolute dog shit. And then to speak to some other further utility stuff, right? You're gonna get Spell Reflect in PvE, which is nice. If you can Spell Reflect some casts from Mythic Plus, could be good, right? Especially like as you get to the higher keys, right? You can have the mob just do like a crazy damage on itself. We're also gonna get Shattering Throwback, which I'm personally very excited for because I actually PvP, and you know, Paladins were the bane of my existence. They bop, they bubble, nothing I can do. So now you can just shatter and throw them, which is nice. On top of that, there are some Mythic Plus mobs that I've seen so far that do have shields. So the extra damage on shield is pretty nice. Just do note that it does right now have a 1.5 second cast time, and you probably going to be enraged as you cast it because you're going to do more damage. The problem with that is that you're not going to gain any rage during Shattering Throw. So something that I do like to see is if they can make it so Shattering Throw can give some rage back if it breaks his shield, right? Now, it doesn't have to always give rage, right? So I think they shouldn't incentivize you Shattering Throw just normally. It's just if something has a shield, there should be some better return, because right now if you get enraged and then you Shattering Throw, you know, your enraged is going to fall off in a few seconds and your rage bar is going to be very low. So if your Bloodthirst doesn't give you that proc of enraged, you're kind of screwed for the next few seconds in regards to just DPS and kind of rage generation, right? So that's something that I would like to see changed. Also defensively, we did get a slight nerf to self-healing, mainly just in the form of Bloodthirst. It used to heal 5% HP, now it's going to heal 3%, so there's just a slight reduction, but not a huge issue because Enraged Regen is still going to heal you for a lot. There have been many instances where Enraged Regen has saved my life a lot in Mythic Plus, and I think that's going to be kind of the name of the game. There's so much like just AoE damage that's being done, whether, you know, dodgeable or undodgeable stuff. Just being able to have the potential to heal yourself with, you know, Enraged Regen and also plus pods. Your survivability as Fury is still pretty good, especially in a PvE environment, as long as it's not a one-shot mechanic, right? We still don't have immunities, so if it's gonna one-shot you, you're still dead. But if it's kind of like more constant ticking damage, as long as there's an ad that you can live steal on, you're good to go. And then of course we have Piercing Howl that has been changed. Now it's a 30-second cooldown, 70% AoE slow. This is nice in I think most situations because one, it's a bigger slow than before from 50%, and I think a lot of other specs, especially in PvP, their slows have become pretty crazy, right? Like they were already at like 70 to 80% slow. So I think Warrior really needed this. Our slows just were not keeping up to the scope of the game and where the game has evolved. So I think this is good. And on a 30-second cooldown, and it doesn't cost rage. So, you know, feel free to use this on Mythic Plus if your tank is trying to kite, right? Realistically, when your tank is kiting, you're not going to be spamming Piercing Howl anyways. So what I found is that the 30-second cooldown is not that big of a deal. Like your tank probably doesn't need to kite more than once every 30 seconds. If he is, I think there's some bigger issues at play. And you're probably gonna, and if he's kiting more than that, you're probably gonna pull aggro anyway. So that's another problem. All right. Now let's actually get into the meat of Fury. Like, how does it feel to play, right? Mythic Plus, I think right now for Fury is where it feels the best. When you're doing AoE, it feels great, mostly because of Condemn. And specifically, this conduit right here, Harrowing Punishment. Condemn's damage dealt and prevented are increased by 8% for each nearby enemy up to 40%. Now, both that 8% and that 40% number, it does go up with higher ranks of your conduits. So that's why this is so good, right? Even just the base rank 1 is great. And then when you get to the rank 15, I think eventually everything gets doubled. It's going to be even better, right? So this is the bread and butter, right? Your 5 target AoE should not be beaten by anybody. Now, there are occasions where, you know, if they pop all their cooldowns, they can beat you, but realistically, because of how consistent this is, and technically this doesn't require a cooldown to use, Fury's constant AoE on every single pack, especially if you like somehow get a dungeon where you only pull like 5 packs at a time, it's absolutely insane. You should be doing really, really great overall damage. I think the only reason you would lose right now is due to balancing issues, or if they have some crazy like AoE legendaries that the class has. And then on top of that, the other reason why Mythic Plus seems to be so good, or AoE in general is so good for Fury, is that you really want to hit things, right, that's above 80% HP, because you're going to take Condemn, right, at least right now, and you want to hit things that are below 35% because you want to take Massacre, right? With that, you're going to be tap targeting a lot. When your tanks first pull the group, you want to make sure you're always targeting the highest HP, basically, right? If it doesn't matter what the kill order is. So you want to make sure you get as many Condemns out. And then once beyond that point, you also then want to focus the lowest HP target at that point, because you want to get that guy below 35% HP, and then you can, whirlwind your Condemns off of that guy. So that's very important, and that's what you're going to see me do entire this Mythic Plus that we're voice overing right now, is constantly tap targeting to trying to find a guy that's above 80% HP, and then another guy that's below 35% HP. When live actually comes out, when this expansion comes out, right, we're going to use add-ons from nameplates, right? You're going to have all the shit where you can see their percentages and maybe change their nameplate colors based on the percentages. So that's all good. You're going to be doing that. On top of that, another talent that I've started using in beta that I really, really like for Mythic Plus now, especially because of this reliance on Condemn, is Fresh Meat, right? Bloodthirst always enrages you the first time you strike a target, and it has a 15% increased chance to trigger Enrage. So it's the first part that matters. The first part is that when you use Bloodthirst on the first time hitting a target, it's going to guarantee Enrage you. That's very important, especially as you tap targeting and you're switching targets. Every time you're going to use Bloodthirst on these new targets, you're going to get Enraged, which is also really good because, when we talk about like Condemned in itself, a lot of times, ads from 100 to 80 get bursted really, really quickly, right? Whether it's a raid fight, Mythic Plus, whatever it is, right? Because a lot of times people pop their cooldowns right away, right, on pull. So if they're popping all their cooldowns, bam, your mob can instantly go from 100 to 70% HP, and you're missing out on being able to condemn them. With Fresh Meat, however, you always be able to consistently get Enraged. So let's say you charge a mob. Generally, what you're going to do is, let's say you don't have cooldowns, right? You're going to charge a pack, Whirlwind, right? And then you're going to Rampage or Bloodthirst, and then you're going to hit Condemn, right? Because you want to make sure that you're Enraged. That way you're buffing all of your Condemns with their Enraged buff. So if you don't have enough Rage for a Rampage, that's where the Fresh Meat comes in. It's going to guarantee that you can get Enraged with Bloodthirst, and you can hit those big Condemns. And then, of course, if there's at least 5 of them, right, you got that fully, essentially powered up Harrowing Punishment, and then you're good to go. And then, of course, you're going to be... for Conduits, right, you're gonna line that up with Juggernaut. That way you can have higher critical strike chance, right, and all that shit. And then, the only other one that I take right now for Conduits is the Death of Insanity, which just makes your recklessness last 20% longer. So I would say right now in Mythic Plus, for damage wise, Fury feels pretty good. It does really good damage. Now, I don't think it's doing, current like Fire Mage levels of damage. I'm not sure if anybody currently does that, but it's not going to be knocking your socks off where everybody needs a Fury Warrior. But if you're brought into the group, you're going to do really good consistent damage. Just know, unfortunately, since we don't have like an AoE stun, or someone for utility, and we don't have immunities like other classes, that's still an issue, right? We still don't have that. And, very likely in the next expansion and the meta for Mythic Plus, we might still not be taken because of that. Because remember, right, when the next season Mythic Plus starts on retail, you're no longer going to have the current seasonal affix, right? So you're most likely going to have to require a rogue again for Shroud, unless they do something else to Shroud. So that's one melee spot gone, and then you're competing for 1 to 2 other spots. Now the question is, can you beat a Demon Hunter with their AoE stun when with the damage that they have? We'll see. And then the potential is, do you guys need a range or not? We'll also see for that. So, I mean, to be honest, your spot is still probably going to be in the same contention. But I do feel like Fury damage is good enough for you to be in the consideration, especially with the self-healing that you can have. And on some fights where, yeah, and an immunity is fine, but to be honest, some of those things you can self-heal through. And then let's quickly talk about raid. So I've done some raid testing with some Fury stuff. Obviously, you can't raid all the time on the beta, so we can only have glimpses of what it looks like. And I think it feels okay. I mean, it doesn't feel slow or anything. It still feels... like the current speed that you're used to playing at Fury, that's what it feels like. Your rotation doesn't really change that much, other than the fact that obviously you don't have Cold Steel Hot Blood anymore. So the priority of your Bloodthirst is going to go down. So most likely you're going to be using Raging Blows in Enrage more than Bloodthirst. But everything else should be similarly. And of course, whenever you can, right, you're going to be hitting Condemn, right? Your goal is to like Condemn, right? Everything you can do to get as many Condemns as you can. And if there's ever adds, always make sure that your Whirlwind Cleave is up. And that's how Fury feels. And then the other thing is Dragon Roar pumps really fucking hard, right? Hopefully Blizzard doesn't nerf it, but yeah, Dragon Roar doesn't have an AoE cap. And of course, you're gonna pop your Recklessness and any other potential crit stuff that you have. Like I'm using a crit trinket in this video that I have that you get from one of the dungeons in here. And yeah, your Dragon Roar just really pops off. Like if there's any time where your tank pulls like more than 10 adds, you wanna make sure that your Dragon Roar is buffed with Enrage and Wreck, pop it, it's gonna do massive damage for that one instance of hitting it. So that's how Fury feels like to play. I think right now it's still very fast paced. It has a good enough self-healing. It's very, very strong AoE, especially when you're fighting targets with all different types of HP, where you can constantly, you know, cleave your Condemn. But I do think it's a little bit weak in single target. Like when I go against some of these Mythic Plus bosses, where some of the classes, especially rogues, like they're actually pumping out a lot of damage. And I think some of the casters too. So that's where I think it's a little bit weak. But to be honest, like I don't think there's gonna be that much pure single target anyways in the raid. So I think we're gonna be in a good spot. And I guess it'll all depend on how fast you're gonna get some of these conduit levels. Because obviously one of the ways that you can get stronger in a raid setting is if it's a long boss fight, it's with a long execute phase, and you can actually stack up your Juggernaut to where your damage starts scaling up further. So we'll have to see how that works out. But to be honest, right now, Fear looks to be in a good spot. If you want to play Warrior right now with how it looks, you're definitely going to be going Fury. I don't know what those people are talking about for arms, because that spec, you know, even you can look at the legendaries, you're like, oh, this shit looks good. But like when you actually play that spec, it just doesn't feel good. You don't want to play it, and the damage isn't even that great. You're just wondering, why don't I just play Fury? So that's my opinion of Fury so far on the Shadowlands beta. And yeah, I'll also play this video out so you guys can see the video to the end of the dungeon. As always, thanks for checking out the video. Feel free to subscribe to see more, and also subscribe to a channel that actually knows how to play Warrior. That way you're actually getting correct information instead of some of the other bullshit that's been going around. Yeah, see you guys. Yeah, good thing I'm pretty sure if I didn't sound a little breeze, would have been dead. That's okay, he vortex anyways, I guess.
I was so trusting.
What did I die to?
I think the rapid fire. It's like a cone barrage. That's what it is. I think that's what it was.
Arrived. How far is the rogue from it?
Yeah, Gargons are no good.
I haven't healed this. Not that that's an excuse.
I want to buff the rogue too, but I'll just buff them first so the tank can pull, I guess.
If you haven't healed this, you don't know when they can come back.
Oh yeah, we have been through. Let's go. Sorry, last time I did this, I didn't have anything. Then let's try on the boss. I'll pull that guy up to the boss and activate him once we're fighting the boss. I think that'll work.
You will be. Oh God.
Yeah, everyone just go to the boss.
Well, we're gonna get the thing. We're
We're gonna use it until we pull it, or now?
No, we're not killing it. No.
Oh, okay.
Alright, activate it now. Perfect. Now it's fighting the boss with us.
Oh my god, why did I? Holy shit. How did I use action ignore pain? Fuck. Who's it on?
Man, it keeps changing targets.
I know.
We all gotta stack up.
Wait, why does he keep changing targets? The fuck?
The pain
Does that guy's damage show up on your meters or just the enemy damage taken? I don't know.
The pain
He, like,
shall
chunks things with
enlighten
this.
me. You must face your punishment. The pain shall enlighten me. My flock
There.
needs me.
Weird.
Alright, Pixel.
Just go to the center because we have a bookend. Bring the boss back.
Can't jump over the fucking bench.
Mushroom's fun. I feel like the hunter. Press one button, do damn.
Oh, this room's fun. I hear every player say in the Into This Room, Blizzard. I wonder why. Because it's 1 of 5 targets?
Is it boss? I'm trying to think if I should use Wreck here. It's too late now, huh?
Pretty question.
I mean, look, I'm target capped too, just at 20 targets.
Oh, yeah. I'll fight right up here next to the boss. Come back. Oh, yeah.
Get out of the middle of the
I
boss.
also,
Get out of the middle of the boss. Nice. Alright.
I tire of your boorish presence. Be gone, rabble! You are beneath my contempt. Your pride.
One more. Yes! Got the last them in there.
That's the only pride field. Pride field.
I don't think I'm very good at it, but Abe was doing it as Mistweaver. Abe was fucking slapping as Mistweaver in his redoing earlier, so I need to like figure out what he's doing. It felt really good.
I should be able to get a lot of these. I got like 2.5.
Pulling full packs on top of the Pride Full with him healing. It was fine.
Nice, that's good.
I don't know. I'm not there.
Yeah, it's all good.
I don't know how to play Mistweaver unless I have a billion bursts.
What did the master ever see in you?
Am I dead? Oh, I'm actually just dead. Not enough healing.
Feel the weight of your sins.
I feel like our single target still, I don't know, is suffering a little bit.
Yeah, I got always like 3 of them, but
Oh, I got Keystone
like,
Master.
right in the middle of his hitbox, it like swaps some of them now and then.
Wait,
Just, like,
Keystone Master just from doing 115? That was pretty insane damage, actually.
oh, I got a conduit.
I got another hack and slash. It's more than 25%, right?
Same.
It's more like 37%, because you gotta add the main hand and the offhand. Is it like the sword 5%? Yeah, the food is around 3% still. This is a shadow core that's just have enchants. I have some Flasks. I didn't use that many flasks that run. Yeah, if it counted the event, their pet damage would be even higher. Did I never use the AoE pot? I thought I did. I thought I used the AoE pot in the very first bowl. I'm pretty sure I did.